All right. So the next problem. So the next problem is the following. This is a more interesting problem. A man and his wife share a sum of money in the ratio 3:2. If the sum of money is doubled, in what ratio should they divide it so that the man receives the same amount? All right. Let me get rid of all this. So a man and a woman, or a man and his wife, share a sum of money in the ratio 3:2. So we write down the ratio in which they share. The ratio in which they're sharing is 3:2, right? So ratio 3:2. This is for the man and this is for his wife. So wife, right? 3:2. Now in mathematics it is always sensible to work with quantities that are general. We could say that the man and the woman are sharing $20 together or $40 together, and then we could work out how much each of them is going to get according to this ratio. But it will be more sensible and more logical to work with a general quantity. So let us give a general name to the total which they have to share between themselves. So let's give the total a name. So the total amount of money they have is X dollars. X dollars. All right. Now they're going to share X dollars in the ratio 3:2. How are they going to do that? Well, the man is going to receive 3 parts out of 5 parts of that X dollars, right? Because we just saw that if you divide something in this ratio, then the man is going to get 3 parts out of 5 parts of that thing, and the lady is going to receive 2 parts out of 5 parts of that thing, right? Now that is all very easy, but the question asks us now, the problem says, if the sum of money is doubled, in what ratio should they divide it so that the man receives the same amount? Now this is getting a little bit more tricky now. So they're saying that if we replace this total by twice this total, so in other words, if we now introduced a new total of not X dollars but 2X dollars. Now how much is the in what ratio should they divide it so that the man receives not a penny more than he would have received if the total was X dollars and they had divided it in the ratio 3:2? How are we going to think about that? Well, if the man is going to still receive 3 out of 5 X out of 2X, then we better subtract that from 2X to get what the lady is going to receive, because the lady is going to receive all the rest, because there is no third person. She has to receive all the rest of the money. So 2X minus 3/5X. How do you solve this? How do you evaluate this? Well, you could do one thing. You could multiply this number by 5/5, because if you do that, you make the two denominators the same. So you get 10x/5 minus 3x/5, and that is 7x/5. In other words, if the man receives only 3 out of 5 parts from 2x, the lady is going to receive 7 out of 5 parts, or 1 whole and 2 out of 5 parts from the total. So they're going to share it in the ratio 3 out of 5 is to 7 out of 5, and we can see that 3 out of 5 is to 7 out of 5. Multiply both sides by 5, We can do that in a ratio and get an equivalent ratio. If we do that, we get 3:7, and that is the answer to the question. That is the answer to the problem. That if two people share some amount of money in the ratio 3:2, and then they double the amount of money they're sharing, but one of them, the one who was getting 3 parts out of 5 parts of the original amount, if he's to receive the same amount from the new total, then this is the ratio that they must share in, so that he receives the same amount. Alright. What about the last problem? Do we have time for the last problem? Let's see. Find the ratio between the sides of an A4 sized paper. Find the ratio between the sides of an A4 sized paper. This is a star problem, not because it is difficult, but because it is more interesting than the last 3 problems, and because it's going to lead into something which we will be covering in a matter of some days. It's going to lead us to make the observation that not all numbers can be expressed in ratios. So let me tell you a little bit about A4 sized paper. This is a problem from daily life that you can work out if you have an A4 sized paper. You can work it out only approximately. If you measure the A4, if you measure the sides of the A4 sized paper using a ruler, you can only work it out to some level of accuracy depending on which ruler you're using. But let me tell you a little bit about what an A4 sized paper is. So an A4 sized paper has the following property: that if you fold it in half, you get two exact same copies of something. That's obvious, because you fold anything in half, you get 2 exact copies of the same thing if you fold it along its line of symmetry, and this happens to be its line of symmetry. So this is A4 sized paper. But the A4 sized paper has this additional property that if you fold it in half, the 2 halves that you get are exactly the same shape as the complete paper, as this paper. So this half, so let me color it now. This half, the pink half is the same shape as the yellow. The pink area has the same shape as the yellow area. Now that is quite interesting. How can you create something like this? What should be the ratio of the sides so that when you fold it in half, you get 2 exact same shape halves? The 2 halves are the same shape. How do you do that? Well, you have to work with ratios. So again, we have to think in terms of ratios now. So let this length, I'm going to name this length. Let me name this length A, and let me name this length B. I can do that. So the question asks, what is this ratio? A over B. What is A over B? By the way, this is done so that scaling your documents is easier. You want to make a document which is only half as large. You don't have to mess with a lot of dimensions. You can work easily. So, for example, if you divide an A4 sized paper in half, you get 2 A5 sized papers. And if you divide an A3 sized paper in half, you get 2 A4 sized papers. There is a whole list, there's a whole series of these A sized papers going from A0 to some number, I don't know. So A4 sized paper. All of them have the same ratio, by the way. All of them. This works for all of them, not for just A4. This will work for A3, A2, any size. So what is the ratio between these 2 sides? Well, the ratio between these 2 sides, what do we know? We know that the ratio between this side and this side is the same as the ratio between this side and this side, right? The ratio between this side and this side is the same as the ratio between this side and this side. Otherwise, you won't get the same shape. You can only get the same shape if this ratio, the ratio of this to this is the same as the ratio of the two pink lengths, this length and this length. So what is this length? Well, this length is just B. So B, this is B. So let me label this B now. What is this? This is not A, this is half of A. So this length is half of A, half A. So now we can write down this, we can write it down. A over B is the same, must be the same as B over a half A, which we can write down as 0.5A, right? Now we can multiply both sides of this equation. Now we have an equation, by the way. You can multiply both sides of this equation by B. By B to get the following. A is equal to B squared over 0.5A, right? This is correct. Why is this correct? Because if you multiply this side of the equation by B and this side of the equation by B, over here you get B squared, and over here you get B divided by B, which is just 1 times A. So A is equal to B squared over A is equal to B squared over 0.5A. Now we multiply both sides of the equation by A squareds. By the same argument, A squared is equal to B squared. If we multiply both sides of the equation by A, we get A squared on the left side and B squared over 0.5 on the right side. So if we now rearrange this equation, we get A squared. We bring B squared to the left side by dividing both sides by B squared. We get over B squared. A squared over B squared is equal to 1 over 0.5, which is the same as 2, by the way. 1 over 0.5 is the same as 2. So A squared over B squared is the same as 2. In other words, our ratio A over B is the square root of 2. This is a very important result. Why? Because to make an A4 size paper, what you have to do is you have to take two lengths which are in the ratio square root of 2. This length, the square root of 2, by the way, is not it cannot be written down in terms of a fraction. You have to expand it all out. It's an infinite decimal. It's very ugly and it never stops. It has no patterns that repeat, but it is approximately equal to 1.414. Goes on and on and on. So in other words, if we want to create an A4 sized paper, we better take a unit length on this side and a length which is 1.414 times this length on this side. And A4 sized paper has a certain dimensions, and if you measure it, you can find it out that they are roughly equal to this. The ratio of the lengths is roughly equal to this number. So I think that is enough for one video. I'll see you in the next video with a few more problems. Thanks for watching.